end. So Politicon, we're going to talk to Knowles later about Politicon. We got a couple, we got Michael Duran coming on from the Hudson Institute. He wrote a great piece in the New York Post over the weekend about Khashoggi, who he is, how we should react to his obviously being murdered by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia. Now they're lying about it. They're saying he died in a fight. He was fighting. He's like a 59-year-old journalist fighting against 18 like hired killers, but they're saying he died in a fight. Trump is ticked off. Everybody's ticked off, but Duran had just a great piece on it. We'll talk to Knowles about Politicon. Politicon, I have to say, the one thing I really like about Politicon is they actually have right-wingers and left-wingers there. It's not one of these events. This has become all right-wing all the time. So you have, like, you know, both sides coming together for civilized intellectual discourse, like this moment, this, you know, beautiful exchange between Charlie Kirk and Cenk Uygur.
I live like a capitalist every single day, Cenk. I live as a capitalist,
hey,
okay? I live when I believe.
No.
What do? I get charity every single year.
Hold on.
What's my salary? Less than his.
Charlie, take a
Come on,
seat.
Cenk, let's go.
Charlie,
What are you doing?
take a seat. Take a seat.
Psycho?
All right, no. Take a seat. You're going to take a seat.
Can't we all just get along? No, we can't. This is not going to happen. Things are getting intense because we're reaching the midterms. And the thing about the midterms, as the midterms approach, it is the right way to read the news, right way to look at events, that everything is being constructed and placed as a campaign issue. So the big story you're hearing about or not hearing about if you're watching the mainstream media is this caravan, this invasion of people coming up from Honduras, and now Mexicans are joining as well. They broke through the Mexican lines. They regathered. They say there's something like, it started out 4,000, now maybe 7,000. They say it may get up as high as 10,000. Trump is saying he's going to cut off aid to Central American countries. He's saying he's going to send the army down, which he's completely within his rights to do, to defend our border. And of course, they're going to get here just in time for the midterms, right? And we know as they get here, and I'm not usually suspicious about stuff like this, but in this case, I think you have to be. As we get to the midterms, suddenly, you know, they're not going to have enough food, because obviously somebody's paying for this. Obviously somebody's supporting them along the way. We're going to start to see you haven't heard a word from the Democrats. Democrats haven't said really anything, but soon you're going to have the crying baby pictures, oh, the babies, you know, and all this stuff. And look, I don't believe that we should just like spit on these people or say, you know, this is I believe this trouble. First of all, they're coming out of Honduras and they say they're escaping and they're carrying Honduran flags. So what the hell, you know, I mean, if you're carrying an American flag, maybe at least we think you want to be in the country. But, you know, there's just something, it's just very, very, very suspicious to me. And you know, we'll start to hear about the humanitarian crisis of it all. And we'll start to hear, you know, what terrible people we are. But really, we cannot take in everybody. It's a problem because if we stop them, we don't want anybody to get killed. We don't want there to be violence. But if we just let them in, what happens? Next caravan, the next day. The next day, they start building another caravan. You cannot have that happen. We've seen Europe inundated with people like that. We've seen Angela Merkel basically selling the identity of Europe away to make herself look kind or make herself feel kind. We cannot do it. We're going to have to stop them. We're going to have to make sure. And the Democrats think this is their campaign issue, but Trump knows it's his. Trump knows it's his. And see, that this is the thing. You know, the New York Times ran a thing saying, a headline last week, and it said, Republicans are finding illegal immigration a surprisingly potent campaign issue. Thought, were you at the last election? Do you own a television? I mean, of course it's a potent campaign issue. And it's not about the races of the people. That's garbage. It's not about not being a kind and open country. We love immigrants. This country lives off immigrants. We know that. This is not immigration. This is invasion. It's illegal. And you cannot say to the people of this country, oh, you elected us to pass laws, but our laws don't matter if we can have crying babies on TV and win elections. That's basically what they're saying. Cannot happen. Our laws count. Our laws matter. And of course, this is the other thing that Trump knows is a great, great issue. He knows the Kavanaugh hysteria, all the people chasing people out of restaurants, the screaming and the yelling, the get rid of due process, the believe all women nonsense. And of course, it's nonsense. You don't believe anybody. Everybody gets due process. Trump is selling this big time. He knows that people are seeing this on TV, and the press can tell you it's not mob rule as much as they want. It's mob rule. So he's out there, you know, really selling it. He says it's his new hashtag. This is cut number 6.
The Democrat Party has become an angry, ruthless, unhinged mob determined to get power by any means necessary. Your vote in this election will decide which party controls Congress. The choice for every American could not be more clear. So Democrats produce mobs, Republicans produce jobs. That's become hashtag. Right? That's called hashtag. That's a new hashtag. That's a hot one. This November, vote for jobs, not mobs. If Nancy Pelosi, crying Chuck Schumer, and the radical Democrats take over Congress, which would be a shame, they will try to plunge our country into a nightmare of gridlock, poverty, and chaos.
So the left knows, the Democrats know this is a problem for them. They know they pushed too hard. They know they went too far. Hating Trump is not a campaign issue. It may be a campaign issue for certain groups, for some people, but ultimately, people care about how they live, especially in congressional races where you're voting for your local guy. So they want to turn this, whatever they do, they want to turn it around and throw it at Trump. And Trump made a comment at one of his rallies where he was talking about this thing. It happened May 2017, where, remember, that Guardian reporter asked the Montana Republican congressional candidate, Greg Gianforte, I think, and he body slammed her, he knocked him down, allegedly. So Trump made a joke about that. Here's the joke.
And by the way, never wrestle him. You understand that? Never. Any guy that can do a body slam, he's my kind of... He's my guy.
He's imitating the body slam. All right, listen, Trump is hilarious, but I'm not going to approve the violent rhetoric and all this. But the people there, obviously, they don't want to body slam reporters. They're just telling you they hate reporters because reporters lie. It is a way, in a graphic way, of the people telling the reporters, you lie, we hate you. You hate us. 50 years we've listened to you tell us we stink. 50 years we've listened to you skew the news. We hate you. That's what the message is. But of course, journalists don't like that for some reason. I don't know what it is. The journalists are, and you know who's really unhappy is Jim, look at me, I'm Jim Acosta, is unhappy about this because Jim is such a, he's such a restrained person. He never attacks ordinary Americans. He never skews the news to Donald Trump. And he's trying to turn it around to make it sound like Trump people are the violent ones. Here is Jim, look at me, I'm Jim Acosta.
When the president made that joke about Greg Gianforte assaulting Ben Jacobs, I looked over to the crowd. There was one gentleman, a Trump supporter in the crowd, who was doing pro wrestling moves, doing body slam type gestures in the crowd. So the crowd was obviously eating this stuff up, and people wonder whether or not there's a cause and effect, whether or not the president's rhetoric, plants seeds of violence in his own supporters, in his own crowds. I think it was pretty evident there that the crowd was loving every minute of this when the president was joking about and assaulting reporters at this rally tonight.
You're a mean, mad white man.
He is a mean white man. But the problem they have is when the violence happens. They keep telling us how violent we are, but when the violence happens, surprise, it's always from the left. It's just about always from the left. You don't have right-wingers going and shooting congressmen while they're playing softball. It's always from the left. Mitch McConnell, Cocaine Mitch, can't have a simple glass of cocaine at his local diner without somebody screaming at him. Here's yet another. This is the third time this has happened.
Oh, yeah. Why don't you get out of here? Why don't you leave the entire country?
Dead next.
What's beautiful here, if you're not watching, is the people in the restaurant just tell this guy to get out. And they're not all Republicans. They're just Americans. They're just Americans. And that's a beautiful thing, right? And the left has is going to lose those people, one hopes, once they see what is going on. And, I think that's a great thing that they threw him out. So you say the other day Pelosi got mobbed, and that's true. Pelosi also got mobbed the other day. You can show that.
Look at Nancy Pelosi right here. Look at this piece of right here. Look at this piece of Pelosi right here. Communists, you don't belong here, you communists. Get the out of here. Get the out of here. You and your Democrats.
So what's the difference between that? There is no difference except for this. Everybody on the right denounced that. Every single person. Ted Cruz, all the spokespeople. I was on a column at panel at Politicon with Dan Bongino. He's he's a really good guy, really nice guy. I'd never met him before. Terrific person, but one of those red meat guys. He just was ready. He's got the language. He wants to smack down. He said, this is stupid. I don't want this stuff on our side. I want this on their side. We all denounced it. Do they denounce it on the left? Let's listen to Nancy Pelosi talking. And you've heard a little bit of this quote before, but you haven't heard the whole thing. Listen to this.
We owe the American people to be there for them, for their financial security, respecting the dignity and worth of every person in our country. And if there's some collateral damage for some others who do not share our view, well, so be it, but it shouldn't be our original purpose.
So we want to have dignity for every American except for those who don't share our views, except for they get. So that's the difference. The difference is their leadership is supporting this. You know, this is one of the other things that's becoming. I started out by talking about how everything becomes a campaign issue this close to the elections. If you may have heard about this transgender thing where Trump administration is going to say, define gender as what gender you are. That's what they're going to do. If you have one pair, if you have one kind of sexual organs when you come out of your mom, you're one thing, and if you have another, you're the other thing. And everybody, oh my gosh, the shock of the New York Times. One editor at the New York Times tweeted this as, wow, they're just going to try and define these people out of existence. This issue, why do you think this issue is coming up now? Because everybody in the country knows a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, and how silly the New York Times looks when they play this, how silly the left looks. They know it's a good issue. To me, the really important thing is when they're trying to pin all this stuff on Trump, they're not really pinning it on Trump, they're pinning it on you. After that thing with the body slamming and all this, and again, I don't like that I don't like violent rhetoric, but he was just playing off the crowd's hatred of our dishonest press. Joe Scarborough comes on and listen to what he says, not about Trump, but about the people who voted for Trump and the people who were gathered in that auditorium.
Let's say last week when Donald Trump praised the assault of a reporter who was beaten up and thrown to the ground for simply asking a question about health care reform. The audience behind Donald Trump is cheering and laughing and applauding. I'm just wondering, who raised them, first of all? Who raised those people that are cheering and laughing when a president applauds somebody being beaten up and battered, a reporter for asking a question about health care? Apparently, again, forgetting what happened to Khashoggi in Saudi Arabia, who raised them? What church did they go to growing up? They still go to church every week? Do they go to church on Sundays and then Mondays they applaud somebody beating up the press for asking a question about health care reform? What do they tell their children at night about the type of character they want them to have? You see, you can't cheer about somebody committing assault and battery and beating up somebody and throwing them to the ground. Mm-hmm. You can't cheer on lies that you know to be lies and then go home and try to teach your child anything.
See, you stink. It's you stink. And if you don't think that is the left in general, the intellectual left in general, there is a great column in the Wall Street Journal today by David Gerlenter, the computer guy at Harvard. I don't always agree with him, but this is actually terrific. It's called The Real Reason They Hate Trump. I want to read a chunk of this. He starts out by saying every big U.S. election is interesting, but the coming midterms are fascinating for a reason most commentators forget to mention. The Democrats have no issues. The economy is booming. America's international position is strong. In foreign affairs, the U.S. has remembered in the nick of time what Machiavelli advised princes 5 centuries ago. Don't seek to be loved, seek to be feared. The contrast with the Obama years must be painful for any honest leftist. For future generations, the Kavanaugh fight will stand as a marker of the Democratic Party's intellectual bankruptcy, the flashing red light on the dashboard that says empty. The left is beaten. Their only issue is we hate Trump. And he says this is an instructive hatred because of what the left hates about Donald Trump is precisely what it hates about America. The leftists I know hate Trump's vulgarity, his unwillingness to walk away from a fight, his bluntness, his certainty that America is exceptional, his mistrust of intellectuals, his love of simple ideas that work, and his refusal to believe that men and women are interchangeable. Worst of all, he has no ideology except getting the job done. His goals are to do the task before him, not be pushed around, and otherwise to enjoy life. In short, he is a typical American, except exaggerated because he has no constraints. Because he's rich, he doesn't have any constraints to cramp his style. They hate America. They hate you. They hate that. They really do. And that is one of the best campaign issues ever. Because why would you elect somebody who hates you? How is he going to serve you if he hates you? Why would anybody vote for someone who hates the core of the country? Even on the coasts, why would you? It's insane.